Rise and shine and welcome into the always lovely Moss Arts Center here in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm your host, Robert Bateman, joined alongside Kyle Marshak and Taylor Brettel, bringing you this week's edition of the 3304 Kickoff Show. Guys, Lane Stadium was defended by the Hokies last weekend against Pitt. What stood out to you in that massive matchup?
Yeah, I'd definitely say Kyron Drones and the entire Hokie offense, specifically him in the passing game. We saw a big struggle in that passing game, only one touchdown over the past 2 games, but they came out ready. They were firing it. You saw the first throw, 54-yard touchdown down the field, got the crowd, got the team, everyone excited. I just think that that's huge to definitely attack that. They found Pitt's weakness, 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards on the game. I just think the offense overall, even the rushing game from him and all the running backs was very beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at Brent Pry's career in Blacksburg so far in the macro, right, that's his 15th game as a Virginia Tech head coach, and it's the best the offense has ever looked. You have to give that credit to Tyler Bowen, right? With the way the offense looked in the first 3 games, the question becomes, how is this offensive coordinator going to look? This is his first year really being that lone signal caller for the offense, and Bowen wrote up a great plan for Pitt's rather strong defense too. So really good. The most scoring that they've had under Brent Pry as well. Just all green flags for Virginia Tech's offense right now.
Green flags for sure. Well, the Hokies were able to pick up their first Power 5 win in over a year against Pitt on Saturday, and Nels Williams has your recap of everything you need to know.
Virginia Tech ends a 3-game losing streak and starts ACC play 1-0 as the Hokies defeat Pitt 38-21 in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech came into Saturday night's contest knowing that a win was much needed in front of a sold-out Lane Stadium, and the Hokies looked the sharpest they've ever been in the Brent Pry era on both sides of the ball.
It's good to get a win. To me, the talking point is over a good program that's won an ACC championship and done good things and played great defense and pride in running the ball and pride in being physical. And I thought we matched all of those things tonight and then some.
In his first home start, Kyron Drones put up his best performance in a Tech uniform yet. He totaled 5 touchdowns, 228 yards in the air, and 41 yards on the ground, which powered the Hokies to a 28-7 lead by early in the third. But in the blink of an eye, the Panthers made it 28-21 after a passing touchdown by Phil Dracovic, followed by a scoop and score by the Pitt defense after a Drones fumble on the next possession made it a 1-score game. Tech would not falter, however, as Drones connected with Jalen Lane for a 53-yard touchdown to go up 35-21. The fortitude of the team in that moment stood out the most to Coach Pry.
I think it says a lot. But again, we've been in some tough situations, and I think they believed that they stayed the course, they can come out on top of that thing. There was enough good things in that game that there was some confidence in our football team tonight.
Pitt and Phil Dracovic struggled mightily against Virginia Tech's defense. The Panthers only ran for 38 yards on 24 rushes, which is the Hokies' best display of their run defense so far this season. And while Dracovic racked up 235 yards in the air, its offense only found the end zone twice. Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi did not mince his words regarding his team's performance.
I'm going to reevaluate where we are. I see a lot of things need to change on offense. We got to move. We got 9 first downs. It's hard to win a football game. We got 2 explosive plays. That's all we got. So we got to look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and fix it. And that's my job as head coach to fix it. So it doesn't come down to one guy. It doesn't. It's everybody. It's a team loss. Period.
A John Love field goal would be the final point of the night to make it 38-21, and Tech picked up its first win over a Power 5 program since Boston College in Week 2 of last season. Virginia Tech next heads to the Sunshine State as Florida State hosts the Hokies, while Pitt has the week off before facing undefeated Louisville and Pittsburgh. From Lane Stadium in Blacksburg for 3304 Sports, I'm Nels Williams.
Another great report from Nels Williams, and let's be honest, I didn't expect any less. Well, gentlemen, let's move on to the Hokies matchup this week against the number 5 ranked Florida State Seminoles. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, Braden Schenk took the time to review the history between the Hokies and the Noles, and he stumbled on a pretty interesting story once again. Here's Braden Schenk.
Beamerball, a term that's notorious with Virginia Tech football. What many don't know was Florida State and former Seminole head coach Bobby Bowden actually played a role in the creation of Beamerball. I know that might be a tad confusing, but let me explain. Bowden took the helm of a Florida State program that had won just 4 games in the previous 3 seasons before his arrival in 1976. It took the king of the road just 2 years to turn the Seminoles into a 10-win program. Bowden turned FSU into one of college football's premier programs. I mean, look at their resume, 36 consecutive bowl appearances and 2 national championships behind Bowden. Sounds familiar, right? Bowden's Seminoles and Beamer's Hokies, who were on the rise at the time, squared off 9 times during the 2 head coaches' tenures. Florida State had a remarkable 8-1 record in those meetings, including primetime wins in the 2000 Sugar Bowl National Championship, the 2002 Gator Bowl, and the 2005 ACC Championship. Florida State had some good teams back in the day, but the Seminoles were able to get the upper hand thanks to Coach Bowden's aggressive play call style, and more specifically, his aggressiveness on special teams. Look at 1984, for example. The Seminoles blocked 10 kicks, which is second in the college football record book, including 6 blocked punts returned for touchdowns. That's remarkable. Now, having to face a post-game losing locker room after 8 of those contests, a young student of the game in Frank Beamer started to subtly pick up on the Seminole game plan. Through these losses, they propelled Coach Beamer and the Hokie program to create more development in the areas such as special teams. Beamerball, as it would later be called, led Virginia Tech to 27 consecutive bowl appearances and 4 ACC titles. In addition to Beamer using his newfound Beamerball approach, they were eventually able to overcome the Seminole curse in 2007, behind a dual-threat quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, leading the Hokies to a 40-21 victory. Okay, so maybe it's a distant connection between Florida State and the roots of Beamerball, but what isn't is that through the losses to Florida State, Frank Beamer was able to learn from Hall of Fame coach Bobby Bowden, invent his new style, shape the future of football in Blacksburg. So remember, kids, there's always something to learn from a loss.
Great find, Braden. Well, guys, let's dive into the Hokies a little bit more. Coming in at 2-3, they have a tough matchup ahead of them. But Kyle, that offense has been improving a lot recently, haven't they?
Yeah, like I said last segment, the best they've ever looked. And, you know, when you have a quarterback like Grant Wells, who was supposed to be the signal caller this season, go down, Kyron Drones, who's that Baylor transfer, that's his audition. And so far in his 3 games, first 2 said, you know, when Wells comes back, maybe he's going to be that signal caller again. But then that last game obviously was special. 228 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns in the air, and then 2 more on the ground, which, you know, is just incredible. 5 touchdowns overall. It's the best offensive performance he could have asked for, with 270 all-purpose yards. And more importantly, which this has been a weak spot for Virginia Tech, is their O-line looked as strong as they've ever looked. So the ground attack was actually pretty stellar. And Bashal Tootin with triple digits in the yard mark, I mean, really the O-line was special.
Yeah, you can't ask for much more. And on the other side, Taylor, what about that defense?
Yeah, no, the defense really stepped up, especially on the running game. Over the first 4 games of the season, averaging 159 yards given up is just nothing you want to see on the stat sheet. But against Pitt, only 38. Yes, 38 yards. That was just such incredible defense. The defensive line stepped up, and it's just like they were running straight into a brick wall. And turning it over to the passing game, only 11 of 22 is what Dracovic went. 50% on the game. That was just a beautiful defensive performance.
And, you know, it was supposed to be a game that was going to be won on the ground, whether defensively or offensively, and that's exactly what they did. It was really impressive.
Well, the Hokies have quite the mountain to climb if they want to knock off the Noles this weekend. And for more on all the odds, here's our very own Tucker Terry.
5%. That is Virginia Tech's odds to pull off the upset against number 5 Florida State on Saturday afternoon, according to ESPN. While ESPN doesn't have much hope for the Hokies, Tech fans finally do after an encouraging 38-21 victory over the Pittsburgh Panthers in Lane Stadium last weekend. The run game has been a struggle on both ends of the ball for Tech this year, as they possess the 3rd worst rushing offense and defense in the ACC. However, last game proved to be quite a step in the right direction, as the Hokies ran for almost 200 yards, far above their average of just 126 yards on the ground per game. Similarly, on the defensive end, Tech allowed a mere 38 rushing yards, which comes as a massive improvement to the 214 yards they gave up just 2 weeks ago at Marshall. The top 2 reasons for Tech's recent rushing uptick are transfers Kyron Drones and Bashal Tootin. After a slow start to the season, junior running back Bashal Tootin exploded, piling up an impressive 279 yards from scrimmage over the last 2 games, including his first 100-yard rushing game as a Hokie versus the Panthers. Meanwhile, Kyron Drones also played no small part in last weekend's success, as he was responsible for all 5 touchdowns and 269 total yards. A dual-threat quarterback like Drones adds a completely new dimension to Tech's offense, as they can implement design quarterback runs and read options, not to mention Drones' ability to scramble when he can't find an open receiver. In Grant Wells' 2 starts, the Hokies only managed an average of 60 rushing yards per game, while in Drones' 3 starts, those numbers skyrocket to 170 rushing yards per game. With this in mind, expect drones to get the start versus Florida State, whether or not Grant Wells is available. Can the Hokies shock the world and pull off what would be one of the biggest upsets in all of college football against the Seminoles? While it's not probable, if Virginia Tech can carry over last week's success running the ball while continuing to control the pace of play, it might just be possible, because anything can happen in college football.
Great stuff, Tucker. Well, guys, I think it's time we move on to the powerhouse that is Florida State. They're coming in at number 5 in the nation, and they've been absolutely dominant this year. What has really stood out to you guys about the Seminoles?
Well, just look at it culturally, right? I mean, the offense specifically is their strong suit. They have the second best offense in the ACC, only 8th in defense, but it's just a team that recruits better. You just have bigger, better athletes, which is why the schematics for Virginia Tech's approach to Florida State is going to be big. I'd say the biggest notion that I found on Florida State's offense specifically is that they're returning 8 starters from last year's offense. That offense was the 10th best in the country. So they obviously have a similar skill level to last year.
Yeah, building off that offense, if you just look at the numbers they're putting up, they're averaging 43 points per game over the first 4 games, led by Jordan Travis, already having over 1,000 yards on the season. I think that the Hokie defense will definitely have to step up against this passing game, and like you said, the second best offense in the ACC.
Yeah, well, their last 2 games, they've only won by 1 score, so we'll see how they come out against the Hokies. But for more on Florida State, we have our very own Sophie Tarabola.
From the summits of Blacksburg to the cypress swamps of Tallahassee, the Virginia Tech Hokies take on the Seminoles of the South. Last time Virginia Tech played Florida State was 5 years ago in Doak Campbell Stadium in 2018, ending with a whopping score of 24-3 Hokies. Let's take a look at the highlights of that game. In Tallahassee on that Monday night, the Seminoles were held to just 3 points by the Hokies defense, who recorded 5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, and 5 turnovers from Florida State. Wide receiver for Virginia Tech, Eric Kuma, scored twice, once on a blocked punt recovery and once on a 49-yard receiving touchdown. Now that we did a quick dive into the past, let's get into what they are facing this Saturday. Florida State is leading strong as second in the ACC, just below Louisville with a conference ranking at 2-0 and an overall 4-0. They defeated LSU in Orlando and they killed Clemson in Death Valley, scoring more than 30 points in each game they faced in September. But with rays of sunshine always comes a storm. With what seems like a powerful lead, Florida State tends to face some slack with their offense, with around 147 yards per game and lacks skillfulness on third downs. Both starting safety Akeem Dent and starting left tackle Robert Scott have been injured since the beginning of the season. Despite this, Florida State is ranked 5th in the current AP poll and conquers teams with confidence. With great energy carrying over from the defeat of Pitt Panthers last Saturday by the Hokies, the energy will be reflected in waiting for them when the roaring Doak Campbell Stadium prepares for its first home game in almost a month. With intimidating Chief Osceola and Renegade prancing the field before kickoff, the Seminoles make it clear that the Hokies are entering their territory. When 2 incredibly energetic football teams collide, the anticipation brews as to show they'll play this Saturday.
Incredible as always, Sophia, and hey, Florida State has fired up Tallahassee like never before. Now it's time for my favorite part of the week. Ever find yourself looking at the college game day slate and thinking, man, I just don't know who to pick? Well, don't worry. Giovanni Heater has you covered.
Yeah, Rob, it just feels like college football keeps getting better and better. Week 4 was loaded. Week 5 was absolutely fantastic. Wait until you see what's on the slate for Week 6. But first, let's recap our results from last Friday. We had another productive outing last week, tallying a 5-4 record, bringing our season total to 9-6-1. Kentucky and Ole Miss picked up big wins at home out of the SEC. Colorado kept it close with Southern Cal, and Michigan asserted their dominance while Notre Dame pulled off the comeback in Durham. We'll have to keep an eye out for the Louisville Cardinals' future pick after the Cards escaped Raleigh with a win to stay unbeaten despite missing the cover by just a half a point. Nevertheless, it's time for your weekly bout with the books, and it's time to show Vegas who's boss. Give me my theme music. We start with our C tier, our cautious covers. To the Big Ten we go for a primetime clash as number 2 Michigan is on the road to take on Minnesota. We've been riding Michigan games all season long and are 2-0 when the Wolverines are in action. We're also undefeated when picking against the fighting PJ Flex. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Michigan's top-ranked defense has not given up double-digit points yet this season, while its offense puts up 30-plus each time it takes the field. We like that trend to continue on Saturday night in Minneapolis, and I'm taking Michigan to cover big as 19-point favorites. Book it, baby. Michigan minus 19. We go out west to the Golden State as number 13 Washington State travels to the Rose Bowl to do battle with UCLA. The boys from Pullman are getting 3.5 points, and quite frankly, we have no idea why. Cam Ward is the best quarterback that you've never heard of. The Cougs quarterback ranks 3rd in the country in passing yards per game and has a spotless 13 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. The Bruins offense has been sputtering as their true freshman signal caller Dante Moore faces some rookie struggles. With Wazoo coming off of a bye, I like their offense to dominate as they so often do and come out of Westwood with another win. Book it, baby. Washington State plus 13.5. Moving up to our B tier, our balanced bets, starting with a team that we just can't stop talking about. Louisville hosts number 10 Notre Dame as 6.5-point underdogs. The Cardinals may have let us down last week, but we still feel great about Jeff Brom's boys. The Irish are back in the top 10 following a thrilling victory against Duke last week, but they still have us a little bit unconvinced here at 3304 Sports. Notre Dame hasn't been the type of squad to blow teams out, especially on the road, as we saw down in Durham. I like the Cards offense to get back on track after a sluggish showing in Raleigh. They may not emerge victorious this week and lose their first game of the season, but we certainly think they keep this one close in front of a home crowd under the primetime lights in the house that Lamar Jackson built. Book it, baby. Louisville plus 6.5. We return to the conference where it just means more. As Ole Miss hosts Arkansas, the Rebels are coming off a massive victory in a barn burner against LSU, while the Razorbacks enter on a 3-game skid. Despite the vastly differing circumstances, the Rebs are only 11.5-point favorites. Does Vegas know something that we don't? Maybe not. What we do know is that when the Hogs lose, they lose close, including a 3-point defeat in Death Valley against none other than LSU. Again, we're not saying they're going to win this thing outright, but we definitely like the Razorbacks to keep things interesting. Book it, baby. Arkansas plus 11.5. Now we move up another level to our A tier. We've got one automatic ace for you this week, and it's back in the Big Ten as number 4, the Ohio State Buckeyes host Maryland. Mike Loxley's Terrapins haven't lost since their previous matchup with the Buckeyes last November, thanks to an elite aerial assault led by none other than Talia Tungavailoa, and a top 20 defense on top of it. But this is by far their toughest test to date. Under Ryan Day, the Buckeyes have outscored their opponents by a staggering total of 140 points when they're coming off a bye, which they are this week. They're scoring 50+ and giving up no more than 10 in each game off a bye. I think that uber-talented offense for the Buckeyes and vastly underrated defense absolutely rolls all day long in Columbus to bring the Terps back down to earth. Book it, baby. Ohio State minus 20. Finally, we have our S tier, our super selection of the week. What better place to go for this one than the State Fair in Dallas for the Red River rivalry? Number 3, Texas enters as 6.5-point favorites against bitter foe number 14, Oklahoma. The Longhorns have been snatching headlines all year long and embarrassed OU 49-0 in last year's matchup. But we shouldn't overlook how good the Sooners have been this season. Brent Venables' bunch are the only team in the country with both a top 3 scoring offense and a top 3 scoring defense. This heated rivalry game feels like it's going to come down to the wire, maybe being decided by a last-second field goal on Saturday. And in that case, we will gladly take the points, especially with the spread at nearly a touchdown. Book it, baby. Oklahoma plus 6.5. Well, there's your Saturday slate, folks, but wait, there's more. We've got one last bonus bet in store, a futures pick for good measure as you walk yourself out the door. How about the Huskies of Washington to make the college football playoffs with plus 340 odds? Washington is the best team in the Pac-12, and they have an elite offense led by Michael Penix Jr. They play Oregon, Utah, and Wazoo all at home, and they might drop a game, whether that's at Oregon State or at USC. But at 12-1 as Pac-12 champs, they should have a spot reserved in the CFP. Book it, baby. Washington to the college football playoff for just the second time in school history. Per usual, that was an absolute blast. So let's go ahead and recap. In our C tier, we're taking Michigan and Wazoo to cover. In the B tier, it's Louisville and Arkansas to keep it tight. In the A tier, give us Ohio State to blow out Maryland. And with our super selection of the week, I want Iguodala. Just kidding. We're taking Oklahoma to redeem in the Red River rivalry. Well, enjoy the festivities this weekend, people, and we'll see you right back here next week. As always, when they call, you be sure to tell them we got it covered.
Man, I'm fired up. Great stuff as always, Gio. Guys, normally at this point in the show, we would do a pick'em segment. But I thought this week, here at 3304, we like to keep it fresh, so let's try something a little different.
Gio's got it covered.
Oh, yeah, Gio's got it covered.
Yeah.
But we're going to swap things up a little bit, and you'll see what I did there in just a second, because we have a new segment for you called College Logo Color Swap. And we'll start with a top 20 matchup here with Georgia and Kentucky.
Ooh.
So, guys, what do you think about these logos?
I don't know, man. See that Georgia logo? It has such a unique look to it. It feels wrong to see it with that blue on it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to say I definitely like Kentucky's the better out of these two. That logo is just great in my opinion. You can throw any color on it. And just like Kyle said, Georgia's just doesn't seem right with that blue in there.
Yeah, I mean, our producer Braden Schenk noticed that that's actually the logo of a high school in Oregon. So
wow.
I'm personally going to steer clear of that Georgia logo. Give me the Wildcats. Let's move over to the ACC, where we have another top 25 matchup between Louisville and Notre Dame.
Oh, man. I'm not going to lie. I haven't ate yet today, but I just lost my appetite. Notre Dame has such a distinct color scheme.
It's definitely unique to them.
It feels weird seeing different colors on that logo.
I agree.
And Louisville has kind of a typical look, but it only works because it's the Cardinals, right? You have that cardinal red, and you just throw a navy. It just looks like a normal bird.
See, for me, it kind of looks like a blue jay, so I actually really like that Louisville logo.
You are from Toronto.
True story.
Yeah. No, you have a good point. These are both two classic logos. It's weird to see it change, and I do agree with the bird. It's a Louisville Cardinal. You can't make that any other color.
Yeah.
Well, let's swing it over to a game that I've been referring to as the Battle of the M's, and you'll see why. We got Michigan versus Minnesota.
Wow.
Those are two of the most typical logos, right? The Michigan M is the Michigan M. I'm not going to lie, though. When you take the Minnesota maroon on there, it doesn't look half bad. I'll take that.
I don't think it's bad at all, too. I'm going to take Michigan. How about you, Taylor?
Yeah, I'm taking Michigan as well. I think you could throw any color in there. It looks nice. And they still, they still have a little bit of yellow in there on the outside to still contribute to their school colors.
Well, we'll move over to the conference where it just means more, as Gio loves to say. It's Arkansas and Ole Miss. And now, guys, this swap, there's not a lot to it, let's be honest. But personally, I like that bright Razorback red. Give me Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm going to say Arkansas as well. It kind of just looks like it goes from dull to even sharper, and it looks like Ole Miss flips, so Arkansas is an easy pick for me.
It's weird, right? Because you have that script lettering of Ole Miss, which is such a classic logo in college football, and with that vibrant blue that bounces off of the red that it has, it feels weird to see that kind of maroon with it, but I kind of mess with it.
All right. Well, from the red logo rivalry to the Red River rivalry, let's have Texas and Oklahoma.
There we go. Oh, look at the Texas orange.
It's interesting to see the
that
Texas
kind of shows
orange
up
on a
well.
new logo.
Yeah. That shows up pretty well.
Give me Oklahoma, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to agree. I like the Oklahoma.
Yeah,
logo.
actually, that was a way easier pick than I thought it would be. I got to go with that as well.
All right, now guys, this is my personal favorite of all the swaps. We got UCLA and Wazoo.
Oh my goodness.
Two great looking logos, if you ask me.
I think throwing the UCLA colors on something, I thought that'd throw me off, but honestly, it really shows up on this logo. Yeah, give me Washington State in this one.
But the thing with Washington State, right, just by pure design, I think it has naturally one of the coolest logos in all of college sports. Maybe just the sporting realm in general, right?
Yeah.
But taking the colors of UCLA, which I think they have one of the best color schemes in college sports, and putting it on one of the best design logos. I think this is one of the coolest logos I've ever seen.
Fair enough.
It's a
You
bold
see,
take, but I'll take it.
I love the slickness, like how sleek that UCLA logo looks. And then you come here to that red and white touch it's got to it. It just looks very clean to me. Give me UCLA. And our final color swap we got for you this week is actually the game we covered. Virginia Tech and FSU. Which one are you like?
Wow. I got to say, Hokie colors on anything I think will really show up. I really like how on the knoll there, you can see on like the face paint, you get the Hokie orange and you get the little maroon in it. I think I'm going to have to go with that, yeah.
Yeah, the face paint definitely comes through. I just like the vibrancy of the Hokie orange on the knoll logo. Virginia Tech, I'm not going to lie, with the Florida State colors, it's kind of struggling.
See, I agree right there. I think it looks a little too much like Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
You could mistake that for Vanderbilt very easy with that like Purdue, Vandy type of bronze it's got to it.
Yeah.
So give me the Knowles too.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got for you this week. Thank you very much to our reporters Nels Williams, Braden Schenk, Sophie Tarabola, and Tucker Terry. Our Got 'em Covered duo, of course, Giovanni Heater and Raza Umanari, who helps right behind the camera. And of course, my panelists, Kyle Marshak and Taylor Brettel. I'm Robert Bateman saying so long for now, and we'll see you next week.